Hello, my name is Petruccy, and today I will be presenting on Aetna's difficult decision of whether to invest in diversity during troubling financial times. I will begin with a very brief background on the organization and summary of the problem at hand. I will then outline my position statement, followed by my analysis of the situation. I will end with suggestions on how Raymond Marcos can offer an effective presentation to the Aetna Board of Directors. Aetna is one of the oldest healthcare benefits companies in the United States. Founded in 1853, it now serves over 37 million people with an expansive healthcare network and a myriad of healthcare plans. The organization has a long-standing history of commitment to diversity and forging roads forward ahead of industry standards. It also has experienced exponential growth since the appointment of its new CEO, Ron Williams, in 2001. Aetna is now facing a looming international business crisis due to the results of defaults on mortgages. The organization is reviewing all business initiatives to analyze their values in terms of business and profits. Chief Diversity Officer Marcos has been allocated a 35-minute time slot to present his case on why the organization should continue to invest in diversity. He is overwhelmed because he has a plethora of information and cannot decide what to include and what not to. Here you can see my position statement. Marcos should focus on two overarching themes, those being unforeseen negative consequences of cutting the diversity program and already present successes that can be amplified to actually help the organization through this difficult time. Oftentimes, organizations overreact or react too quickly when crises arrive. Yes, sometimes crises require swift and concrete action, but sometimes remaining on course can actually be the best form of action. Marcos should highlight the following potential crises that would arise as a result of the funding or eliminating the diversity program. First, it would leave a huge hole in many aspects of the organizational workflow. The current HR strategy statement is driven by diversity. HR would have to draft a brand new position statement and would have little to no guidance during that time. Other internal entities, like the Employee Resource Groups and the Diversity Board and Diversity Alliance, would cease to exist. This would cause waves within the employee population of the company. Employees are an organization's most important public, not just because they produce goods and services, but most importantly because they are advocates for the organization. Cutting the diversity program would at best cause confusion and at worst anger. Before long, these feelings will fester, having negative effects on organizational commitment, lowering morale, and increasing turnover, all of which cost the organization more money in the long run. Aetna would also lose the values of community and minority alliances, such as women and minority-owned suppliers. This would likely lose public respect among these segments as well. We know how important corporate social responsibility is nowadays, and Aetna would be sacrificing a great deal of that outreach if it stopped funding diversity. The organization has won numerous awards since 2001 on the back of diversity. What would cutting the program now say? Many would likely ask, were they just doing this for the publicity, for the attention? Negative press would almost certainly follow. As for current areas of strength, there are many. Continuing these and improving them will actually help Aetna survive this difficult financial period. The numerous recognitions that Aetna has won over the past 10 years are a great asset. The publicity that the organization gets from these publications and entities is quite valuable as it directs eyes and ears to the organization. It also does much to build the organization's reputation. As we know, an organization's reputation is vital not only in retaining the trust of current shareholders, but gaining new shareholders as well, and it takes years to build. However, Aetna can amplify these effects. They should be sending out these articles to shareholders. They should be sending out press releases to news media outlets. When the news outlets decide to run with the story, the organization is utilizing earned media. Earned media is so valuable for two reasons. First, these stories occur naturally, thus they do not have to pay anything additional for it to be ran. Secondly, people tend to trust earned media more than advertisements or paid media. People trust the news more than they trust advertisements because they are skeptical that an organization can say almost anything they want if they pay for an ad. Aetna's decision makers must also realize that diversity breeds innovation. This is because different cultures, backgrounds, and past experiences naturally mean different viewpoints, thought processes, and tactics developed for overcoming problems. Innovation has a tangible positive effect on an organization's bottom line, as it produces improvements in workflow as well as improvements in the production of goods and services. These decision makers must revisit Aetna's corporate reasons for pursuing diversity to remind them how valuable it is. The organization highlights two key points in this area: growth opportunities in non traditional markets and the organization's need to reflect the customer base that it serves. Simply put, in order for Aetna to continue to move forward in a positive direction in regards to these two facets of business, they must continue to support their diversity program financially. No organization can realistically plan to move into new, non-traditional markets if they are not members of their staff that reflect the beliefs, values, and traits present in these markets. Aetna's customer response groups have not only done brilliantly to ensure that the organization is truly reflecting the customer base that it serves, but they have also helped ensure each customer group's unique needs are met to the best of the company's ability. Aetna has also emphasized diverse hiring practices as well as training and survey research to ensure, to the best of their ability, that employees from all groups are treated equally and fairly. As for how CDO Marco should structure his presentation in order to be as convincing and persuasive as possible, here are my recommendations. First, he should not waste time highlighting needless information. For example, he has information relevant to company background and the current economic environment. This is pointless and does nothing but distract from his point. The board already knows about the current financial situation. This is precisely why he is being forced to make this presentation. And members of the board should be familiar with the company's important background. Marcos should format his presentation in the following manner: present the key message, offer his evidence and argument, then finish by re-emphasizing his key message. The key message of his presentation is simply that the organization would benefit more from retaining the diversity program than defunding or cutting it. It is also important to remember that it's impossible to remember everything from a 35-minute presentation. This is also an effective tactic because research has shown that people are most likely to remember what is said last. He also needs to be careful not to fall into a categorical trap. Marcos presently has information regarding 6 specific areas or issues. Just because the information is organized or categorized in that manner right now does not mean it has to be or should be presented in that way. This allows for a more persuasive argument to be formed. This way, Marcos can place information from different categories where it best supports the point he is trying to make. This allows Marcos to not be constrained or feel that he has to frame information in a way to fit it into categories. Having more freedom to utilize information and examples where it will be most effective will serve a better and more effective purpose in the long run. The most persuasive arguments attack from multiple angles. Marcos should not only highlight the positives of retaining the program, but also negatives of cutting it. We live in a highly cynical age, and oftentimes negatives speak to people. Also, by forecasting potential crises, Marcos's credibility will increase, as it will be clear that he is looking toward the future and not just dwelling on the past. The strongest piece of evidence should be placed just before the conclusion. If one begins with the strongest piece of evidence, every other piece will pale in comparison and seem weak. Similar to the plot of a novel or a research paper, a persuasive presentation should follow a consistent trend upwards in strength toward a climax. This strongest piece of evidence should be that climax. For Marcos, this should be the awards that Aetna has recently won and the strategy for amplifying its effects through earned media reach. In conclusion, Aetna has a thorough and beneficial diversity program that helps the organization not just politically and socially, but also financially. If Marcos highlights the likely negative effects of cutting or defunding the program, while emphasizing that the present positives can not only be continued, but built upon and improved, he will convince the board to continue to fully fund the diversity program. If he follows this strategy, he will convey that the diversity program is not only a positive, but a necessity to help Aetna get through this difficult financial period. Thank you.